know that you love me. You don't want to say it, but I know it.
Okay, excellent. Very good.
What do you mean, very good?
You say you know it?
I know.
Okay, I'm saying very good.
We've been through a lot as a couple, and is this going to be the end of our story?
Love not enough. The hearts sometimes change.
If you can fix, fix. If you can't.
But I mean, it's not just a me fix. You think it's just a me fix?
I don't know.
Are we going to talk
About what?
about the other day?
What you want me to do?
I don't know, but let's get out of here. Let's go to the lake.
My family, my work, to be in your world. I think I deserve good heart to be with me and a good
I
person.
think we both deserve that. Everything since he's got here has been all about him. But relationships are about compromise, and he's been single for a long time. I'm starting to see why.
Do you think what happened with me, it's right?
No, not at all. It was really not good.
Mido did not simply refuse to tell Debby that he loved her. He sat there, watched her say the words for him, let her reassure herself, and then responded like she had just answered a question correctly in class. Very good. Excellent. That may be one of the coldest moments we have seen this season because Mido did not need to reject Debby directly. Debby did the work for him. She filled in the emotion he refused to give, and he just sat back and accepted her version of reality. And with only 39 days left, that is a serious problem. Mido still has not given Debby the formal proposal she says she needs. He has not fully apologized for the Halloween disaster. He has not taken real responsibility for cursing at her, embarrassing her in front of her friends, or shutting her out afterward. But every time Mido gives Debby another reason to question him, she finds another reason to question herself. Maybe he is overwhelmed. Maybe he has been single too long. Maybe he shows love differently. Maybe 6 years together mean more than what she is seeing right now. But what if they do not? What if the relationship Debby is fighting to save is not the relationship she actually has, but the relationship she believes 6 years should have created? That is what makes this story so much deeper than a man refusing to say, I love you. Is Mido struggling with culture shock, pressure, and homesickness? Or has he discovered that silence, withdrawal, and threats of leaving give him control over the relationship? And is Debby protecting the man she loves, or protecting herself from admitting that she may have misjudged him? Because Mido may be withholding the truth, but Debby could be doing something even more dangerous. She may be rewriting it. After the Halloween fight, Mido does what he seems to do whenever the relationship becomes uncomfortable. He withdraws. He remains inside Debby's home, but he stops communicating with her. He is physically present and emotionally unavailable, which creates pressure without requiring him to explain himself. And notice who finally tries to fix the situation. Debby approaches him. Debby suggests that they talk. Debby proposes going to the lake. Debby tries to move the relationship out of silence and towards some kind of resolution. Before they even begin the conversation, we can already see the imbalance. Debby is responsible for starting the repair process. She is also responsible for keeping it calm, proving her love, and convincing Mido that the relationship is worth saving. Mido's role is mostly to decide whether her effort is enough. In a healthy relationship, one person may need more time after an argument. One person may be the first to reach out. But eventually both people have to participate in the repair. That is not what happens here. When they sit down by the lake, Mido does not begin by asking how Debby feels. He does not acknowledge how he spoke to her. He does not say that he regrets creating tension with her friends. Instead, he asks whether the way he was treated was right. He immediately positions himself as the injured party. And that changes the entire conversation. By putting Debby on the defensive first, Mido avoids beginning with his own behavior. Now Debby has to explain herself before she can even question him. To be fair, Mido may genuinely feel hurt. He left Egypt. He left his family, his routine, and the life he understood. Then he found himself in Debby's world, surrounded by her friends, during an argument where he probably felt outnumbered and judged. That emotional experience can be real. He may have felt embarrassed. He may have felt unsupported. He may have believed everyone had already decided he was the problem. But feeling hurt does not automatically make every reaction acceptable. And Mido does something very revealing with that hurt. He turns his sacrifice into a moral argument. He says that he left his family and his world to join Debby, so he deserves a good heart and a good person beside him. On the surface, that sounds vulnerable. Underneath, it puts Debby on trial. He is not simply saying, I felt alone. He is suggesting that because Debby did not defend him the way he wanted, she may not be a good person. And Debby immediately begins trying to prove that she is. That is where the emotional power imbalance becomes impossible to ignore. Mido's pain becomes the center of the conversation. Debby's pain gets pushed aside. She does not get to fully address why he cursed, why he shut down, or why he treated her friends with such hostility. Instead, she starts reassuring him. She tells him that she loves him, and Mido responds by saying he does not want to hear it all the time. Then he makes it clear that he is not going to say it back. That should have stopped the conversation. Not because every couple has to use the same words constantly, but because Debby has clearly said that verbal reassurance matters to her. This was the moment for a direct question. Do you love me? And do you want to marry me? Not. Are you afraid to say it? Not. Did you express it differently? Not. Can I interpret your silence in the most generous way possible? Just the question. Instead, Debby answers it for him. She tells Mido that she knows he loves her, even if he refuses to say it. And then comes that response. Very good. Excellent. What makes the moment so uncomfortable is that Mido does not soften afterward. He does not reach for her. He does not say, I have trouble expressing myself, but you are right. He simply allows Debby to create the answer she needs. He lets her build the fantasy, and then congratulates her for building it. And this is the central contradiction in their relationship. Debby wants emotional participation from Mido, but she keeps removing the requirement for him to provide it. She says she needs a formal proposal. Then she continues planning a marriage without one. She says she needs to hear, I love you. Then she tells Mido he does not need to say it because she already knows. She says relationships require compromise. Then she explains away his refusal to compromise because he has been single for a long time. Every standard Debby introduces disappears the moment Mido resists it. And whether she realizes it or not, that teaches him something. It teaches Mido that Debby's boundaries are flexible whenever she becomes afraid of losing him. The less he gives, the harder she works. The more he withdraws, the more she pursues. The more he threatens to leave, the more she talks about their history. That creates a dangerous emotional cycle because affection becomes scarce. And when affection is scarce, even the smallest moment of warmth can feel enormous. A basic compliment can look like progress. A calm day can feel like proof that everything is improving. A proposal could suddenly appear powerful enough to erase weeks of rejection. Not because the relationship has truly changed, but because the emotional standard has dropped so low. That brings us to the 6 years Debby keeps mentioning. She says they cannot throw away 6 years. And emotionally, I understand why she feels that way. 6 years is a major part of someone's life. It represents memories, plans, promises, travel, sacrifice, and the belief that everything was leading somewhere. Walking away now would not just mean losing Mido. It would mean facing the possibility that the future she spent 6 years imagining may never arrive. But 6 years are not automatically a reason to marry someone. 6 years are information. They tell you how the relationship handles pressure. They tell you whether promises become action. They tell you whether both people feel safe, respected, and understood. They tell you whether conflict leads to growth or simply repeats itself. Debby appears to treat those 6 years like a debt the future must repay. She has invested so much time that the relationship now has to succeed. Otherwise, what were those 6 years for? But relationships do not work like savings accounts. More time does not guarantee a return. Sometimes the most valuable thing a long relationship gives you is clarity, even when that clarity hurts. And the longer someone remains only because they have already remained, the more expensive that lesson becomes. That is why Devyn's reaction matters so much. Devyn is not simply a skeptical daughter trying to interfere in her mother's relationship. She is looking at the practical future Debby is avoiding. She sees the arguments. She sees Mido living in the house while refusing to communicate. She sees her mother doing most of the emotional work. And she understands that marriage would make everything harder to untangle. Debby is focused on the 6 years behind her. Devyn is focused on the years ahead. She asks what happens if they get married. The arguing continues, and the situation becomes worse. And Debby's answer is basically that if they move forward, things have to work out. But relationships do not improve because they have to. Marriage does not make unresolved problems obey. A legal certificate cannot create affection. It cannot force accountability. It cannot teach two people how to communicate just because the deadline arrived. And that deadline is another major issue. The 90-day process is supposed to be the final stage before marriage. But with couples like Debby and Mido, it starts to look less like preparation and more like a pressure cooker. Instead of asking, Are we truly ready to get married? They start asking, can we somehow become ready before time runs out? Those are very different questions. Debby appears to view the remaining 39 days as time Mido still has to prove that the relationship can work. But what if he is already proving something? He has not proposed in the way she says she needs. He does not consistently reassure her. He resents being asked to express love. He uses leaving as a threat. And when conflict happens, he focuses heavily on what Debby did wrong while showing very little curiosity about the pain he caused. At some point, waiting for the truth can become a way of avoiding the truth. Then there is Mido's acting ambition. From the beginning, his interest in Hollywood has created a second question inside this relationship. Is Mido building a life with Debby, or building access to a new career? Earlier episodes showed Debby questioning his acting background because she had not seen much evidence of the career he described. We also saw Mido become angry when Debby took pictures instead of recording video for his social media. He appeared intensely focused on content, visibility, and the possibility of opportunity in America. None of that proves he is using Debby. Ambition is not fraud. Wanting to become an actor does not mean someone cannot also want love. And moving to another country can create a powerful need to rebuild identity. Mido may feel that acting is one of the only parts of his life he can still control. But his ambition creates competing motives. Is he staying because he is committed to Debby? Is he staying because he wants career opportunities? Is he staying because returning home would feel like failure? Or are all of those motives mixed together? We cannot know for certain from an edited television show. That is why emotional transparency matters so much. When a person has several reasons to remain in a country or relationship, their behavior toward their partner should create clarity. Mido creates the opposite. He speaks clearly about sacrifice. He speaks clearly about respect. He speaks clearly about leaving. But when it comes to love, marriage, and their shared future, the answers become much less direct. He can explain what Debby owes him. He struggles to explain what he is offering her. And that imbalance is a major reason viewers are reacting so strongly. Many viewers feel Mido's body language shows more than discomfort. They believe he looks irritated by Debby's affection. Some fans feel his very good, excellent response was not simply awkward. They saw it as humiliating because it sounded like he was mocking her willingness to believe something he refused to confirm. A section of the audience suspects Mido may be more interested in exposure and acting opportunities than marriage. Other viewers believe both Debby and Mido may be exaggerating their conflict because reality television rewards memorable drama. And because Mido wants to act, some fans have joked that these scenes almost feel like material for an audition reel. But those are audience theories. They are not confirmed facts. Reality television is edited. Softer moments may be removed. Longer conversations may be cut down. Producers can build a storyline around the coldest and most dramatic parts of a relationship. Debby has also publicly defended Mido and emphasized the sacrifices he made to join her. That suggests she believes viewers are not seeing the full picture. And she could be right about that. But missing context cannot erase all visible behavior. Editing can shorten a conversation. It cannot force Mido to respond very good, excellent after Debby tells herself that he loves her. Editing cannot invent every refusal to apologize. It cannot create every threat to leave. And it cannot manufacture Debby's repeated habit of lowering her own expectations whenever Mido refuses to meet them. That is why the most useful debate is not whether Mido is a scammer. That label is dramatic, but it is also almost impossible to prove from edited television. The deeper question is this. At what point does loyalty become self-deception? Because Debby seems deeply attached to the future version of Mido. She loves the man who will eventually propose. The man who will eventually become emotionally open. The man who will eventually appreciate her friends. The man who will eventually stop threatening to leave. The man who will eventually prove that the 6 years meant exactly what Debby believes they meant. But the future version of a person is not the person you marry. You marry the current version and hope you both continue growing. And right now, the current version of Mido appears to follow a repeating pattern. Conflict happens. Mido becomes angry or withdraws. He threatens to leave or emotionally disappears. Debby becomes anxious. She approaches him. She reassures him. He remains. And Debby experiences relief. But relief is not the same as resolution. The fact that Mido has not left does not automatically mean he has chosen the relationship. That distinction is important. A person can stay because leaving is complicated. They can stay because of immigration, money, pride, habit, career goals, fear, affection, or several of those reasons at once. Commitment is not simply remaining in the same house. Commitment is helping create an emotional environment where both people feel secure. Mido repeatedly uses the possibility of leaving. He says that if something like this happens again, he'll get a ticket and return home. That threat has power because Debby is clearly terrified of the relationship ending. If Mido actually left, the threat would disappear. As long as departure remains possible but delayed, Debby remains focused on preventing it. That keeps the emotional balance tilted in Mido's favor. And marriage would not automatically break that cycle. It could make it stronger. Once they are legally married, Debby may feel even more pressure to protect the relationship. Now, she would not only be defending 6 years of history. She would be defending the wedding, the visa process, the family tension, the public criticism, and the belief that ending the marriage would prove everyone else right. That is why the reported off-screen development matters. Entertainment reports have claimed that Debby and Mido apparently married on December 12, 2025. That report has not been independently confirmed here through the underlying public record, so it should be treated as reported information, not an established fact. But if it is accurate, then the real suspense changes. The question is no longer whether Debby will ignore the warning signs and marry Mido. The question becomes what happens after she makes that choice. A proposal could easily become the symbolic moment Debby uses to outweigh everything else. After weeks of emotional distance, one romantic gesture could feel enormous. Mido could say the words. He could get down on one knee. He could promise that the fighting is over and that everything will be different. And Debby could use that moment as proof that her instincts were right all along. But a proposal is not an apology. It is not a communication strategy. It does not prove that future conflict will be handled differently. A proposal is a promise about tomorrow. And this couple is already struggling to deal honestly with today. I also expect Devyn and Debby's friends to become more vocal as the season continues. They can see Debby lowering the standard every time Mido refuses to meet it. But that outside pressure may have the opposite effect. When people feel judged for staying in a relationship, they sometimes become even more determined to prove that outsiders are wrong. Criticism can push them deeper into defending the relationship. Debby may start protecting Mido not only because she loves him, but because admitting that her family and friends were right would feel humiliating. Mido may also continue framing disagreement as a lack of support. We saw that with social media. We saw it during the conflict with her friends. We saw it at the lake. His definition of support appears dangerously close to agreement, loyalty, and public defense. If Debby questions him in front of other people, he feels betrayed. If she refuses to prioritize his feelings over everyone else's, he questions her character. That leaves very little space for healthy disagreement. But Debby's definition of love may be just as damaging in a different way. She appears to believe love means enduring. It means explaining. It means waiting. It means seeing potential that nobody else can see. Those qualities can be beautiful when both people are investing. But they can also trap someone in a relationship where hope is doing all the work. And the saddest part is that Debby is not unaware. She sees the problems. She says everything has been about Mido. She says relationships require compromise. She even says she is starting to understand why he has been single for so long. Her instincts are speaking clearly. She simply does not trust them long enough to act. Every time the truth rises, Debby pushes it back down with another explanation. Maybe Mido is overwhelmed. Maybe he is homesick. Maybe he has been alone too long. Maybe he expresses love differently. Maybe their 6-year history matters more than this painful period. Maybe the proposal will fix everything. Maybe the next conversation will finally be honest. But what if the honest conversation already happened? What if Mido saying that hearts sometimes change was not a confusing phrase or a cultural misunderstanding? What if it meant exactly what it sounded like? What if refusing to say, I love you was not fear, pride, or emotional awkwardness? What if it was the most honest answer he has given her? Debby says the truth has a way of rising to the surface. She is right. But the truth does not always arrive as a dramatic confession. Sometimes it arrives through patterns. It arrives through who apologizes, who pursues, who threatens to leave, who keeps making promises, who avoids giving direct answers, and who keeps doing the emotional work for both PEO.